The NFL stands for not for long.
Set, Sharga and Armstead. Roll out, Walker still running out. Looks to the left, wide open, Thompson touchdown. Colin Thompson with the touchdown. There was nobody within 20 yards of him.
What a catch off the bobble. Colin Thompson scoops it up.
Lofting corner, the end zone. It is caught for the touchdown. The first NFL touch for Colin Thompson is a score.
Too many words are left to say, so they get left behind.
Question from @FranWalsh73. Shout out to my former high school teammate and stud, Fran Walsh. Quote, who is the greatest football player of all time and why is it Tim Tebow, question mark, end quote. A great debate nonetheless. For me, when you're talking greatest of all time, are you talking one game? Are you talking longevity of a season? Are you talking an entire career? Because there's some coaches, some players that have had splash in the pans and amazing short runs, and there's some players that have played a million college football games and had success. And Tim definitely falls into that category, and then becoming a first round pick, Heisman Trophy winner. Everyone knows about this speech. I think Tim is one of the greatest players of all time. I don't think Tim is the greatest quarterback of all time because of the roster he had around him. If you look at the roster that Cam Newton had in Auburn, I don't think there was a player on that field other than Cam Newton who could have played on that Florida team, who ended up getting released from Florida at one point in time and was supposed to follow up Tebow. But to me, to answer your question, Fran, I think Tim is a top 10 great college football player of all time, but because of the roster he played on, it doesn't make him one. There were so many studs, all pros, pro bowlers, first round picks, all SECs, you name it, they had it, plus Urban Meyer. So to me, Tim is not number one, but he's definitely in the top 10. Question from @WilkesWay. Shout out to Chris Wilkes, a great friend. Minor league baseball player for the Padres, turned Florida Gator, where we met, played quarterback there as well. His question was, does Billy Napier keep his job after going 5-7, but signs a top 5 recruiting class? I believe Billy Napier keeps his job, to answer your question, after going 5-7 and having an elite recruiting class. Of course, I think the recruiting class has something to do with it, but I think there's more weight on who left the program and Anthony Richardson, even though he did have some struggles last year at Florida. But to answer your question, I think he keeps his job. I think Florida knows that he's a really good football coach. Florida knows that he's doing the right things in recruiting to make up for some maybe shortcomings that came before him. And Florida knows that firing and hiring and recycling is really not the best formula. They've had some longer tenured coaches there. So I don't think they're going to move on from coach after a 5-7 season. All right, question from the Irritated Al. Does the Big Ten and SEC break apart from the NCAA in the next 10 years, at least for football? I think this is a hot topic and a trend, but just like any hot topic and trend, they cool off over time. I think, yes, does college football really need the NCAA? I don't know. I don't really think so. That's above my pay grade to answer that question. But just looking at it at face value, I think it all works in harmony. It all works together. The NCAA is changing. They're trying to figure it out. A little slow to it per usual, but they're figuring it out. I don't think the Big Ten and the SEC, the two major conferences in college football, break apart and create their own thing. I just don't think it's logical, and everything's based about money. So if the money's right, I'm sure they will, but I don't think they will off the jump. And you're talking about Vandy, Northwestern, Syracuse, Notre Dame, these high academic schools that are harder to get into and recruit maybe a higher talent. Listen, I think they exist, and I think they'll do fine because of transfer portal. I think those guys will say, hey, listen, I'm not doing well at this school, but I can go play in the Big Ten. There may not be room for me at Penn State and Ohio State, but I'll go to Northwestern. I want to play in the SEC. I want to show what I can do. I'll go play at Vandy because I can't play at Bama. So I think transfer portal, we saw it affect March Madness and how they won right away, will allow some teams that may not be able to get 5-star recruits have success. So I don't think they fall apart, and I don't think these high academic institutions fall off because of NIL transfer portal. All right, a question from Bryce DeGroat, shout out to Not For Long Media, at NFL Convo. Bryce asked, the best 3 players I've ever played with at the professional level. Wow, it's a great question, Bryce. I was thinking about this before, and I think I have to go with Christian McCaffrey. I think he's one of the best players in the NFL, if not the best player. Odell Beckham Jr., when I was with the Giants in 2017, was unbelievable. Like nothing I've ever seen before. He moved so well, the grass didn't move underneath his feet when he would dig it and run. It was like he was so light on his feet, it was just different. And then a name that doesn't get a lot of recognition but should, I think Akeem Hicks in Chicago. Was with the Bucs this past season. I think he's one of the most dominant defensive tackles in the entire era that he played in, and is someone not talked about enough. So Christian, Odell, and Akeem, to me, are the 3 players that come to mind right away that were just absolutely different that I played with.
Too many words are left to say, so they